Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports Talk. And thank to my first ever March Madness preview and my picks for both the women's and men's tournament. Now, fair warning, my basketball IQ is novice, so won't be completely void of any misconceptions or anything like that. Now, I'm only, what I see in the media is basically what I get. Uh, but I kind of look at some of the data and whatnot and kind of pick who could possibly win both brackets. Now, if you look at the women's side, you have South Carolina, who's undefeated right now, the premier team in the land. You have Iowa with Caitlin Clark, who's the GOAT of all scoring in college basketball, men's and women's. You have the defending champ LSU, who has the same bracket as Iowa. UConn, you can't overlook. Um, USC looks really good. Texas looks really good. So the women's side is loaded top to bottom. You also got, Stanford, another blue blood that wins basketball up there. So who are you going to see who's going to come on top? Can South Carolina be an undefeated champion, much like UConn did back, I think, 2016, I want to say? Um, can LSU repeat, which last time that happened was UConn. So there's a lot of interesting aspects and whatnot. So let's go ahead. I'll just dive into Region 1 of the women's bracket. Region 1 is I'll call it Carolina bracket because they're the number one team. I don't see much in the way of that. They should get past the first round. I have Michigan State edging North Carolina, and then South Carolina beat Michigan State. I have Florida Gulf Coast upsetting Oklahoma. Indiana get past Fairfield, and Indiana getting past Florida Gulf Coast. I have A&M knocking off Nebraska, and Eastern Washington slipping past Oregon State. So I have a double uh, upset there with Eastern Washington winning that matchup. And then Ole Miss over Marquette and Notre Dame over Kent State. I have Notre Dame beating Ole Miss, Notre Dame over Eastern Washington, which leaves South Carolina and Notre Dame battling in the Elite Eight, with South Carolina taking that one. In the Iowa region, Caden Clark and the Hawkeyes are sitting number one. Should have no problems in the first round matchup. Then you got West Virginia taking out Princeton. I have West Virginia winning that one. Then Iowa beating West Virginia. Colorado and Drake, I got Colorado. Kansas State, Portland. I got K-State, with K-State being Colorado, facing Iowa. And then falling to Caden Clark once again. I got Middle Tennessee slipping past Louisville. LSU too much for Rice, and LSU getting past Middle Tennessee. I got UNLV knocking off Creighton, and UCLA getting past Cal Baptist. Now here I have UNLV upsetting UCLA, taking on LSU, and shocking the defending champs to head to the Elite Eight to take on Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeyes, and falling there. So there's half your Final Four: South Carolina and Iowa, two number one teams. Well, I'll have all four number ones? No. Texas region, I had Texas over Drexel. Alabama sitting past Florida State. Texas getting past Alabama next round. Utah over South Dakota State. Gonzaga over UC Irvine. The Zags get past Utah to take on Texas, where the Zags will knock off the number one Longhorns. I got Tennessee over Green Bay. NC State over Chattanooga. NC State gets past Tennessee. Iowa State over Maryland. Stanford over Norfolk State. Stanford beats Iowa State, and Stanford beats NC State. So you have an Elite Eight matchup between number 4 Gonzaga against number 2 Stanford, and Stanford returning to the Final Four. Then on the USC region, I have the Trojans past Texas A&M Kingsville, or getting past the first round. Then Michigan edging out Kansas, only to lose to USC. They got Baylor winning their matchup, and Virginia Tech getting past Marshall. Then Baylor beating Virginia Tech to take on USC and knocking off the number 1 Trojans. Then I got Syracuse over to Auburn, Arizona winner. UConn gets past Jackson State, and then UConn gets past Cuse. Duke over Richmond, Ohio State over Maine, with Ohio State beating Duke, and then UConn knocking off Ohio State. So here you have number 5 Baylor taking on number 3 UConn, with UConn heading back to the Final Four. So your Final Four matchups will have number 1 South Carolina take on number 2 Stanford. Here I got the Gamecocks winning this one. They have number 1 Iowa take on number 3 UConn. And this is where Caitlin's journey ends, falling to the Huskies in the semifinals. Championship game will be between, of course, the Gamecocks and the Huskies, where I got South Carolina winning the combined score of 113. South Carolina being the undefeated champion. Now, there's a lot of stumbles across the way, and things can happen. I mean, I took a gamble with that Eastern Washington UNLV runs. I tried to pick a couple Cinderella stories. I went with those 2, but like I said, my knowledge base of this is kind of minute. I can actually still see LSU coming out of that Iowa region to try to repeat as champions. You just never know. You never know which team's going to get hot. Now, for the men's side, once again, try to come up with who I thought would be the Cinderella teams. You know, who's going to be the next Florida Gulf Coast, Loyola, Chicago, St. Peter's. At one point in time, Butler and Gonzaga were considered Cinderellas. Now they're, sometimes favorites if they get good squads. And looking at this, do I have all number 1s make it to the Final Four? No. Not at all. Let's go ahead and start things off out east with UConn. In the east, with UConn taking out Stetson. I think UConn get past that. Florida Atlantic, Northwestern. I got Florida Atlantic edging out Northwestern. I was kind of torn between these 2. San Diego State over UAB. Auburn over Yale. BYU over Duquesne. The Illini knocking off Morehead State. Drake upsetting Washington State. And Iowa State over South Dakota State. In the round of 32 here, I got UConn getting past Florida Atlantic. This one, I battle back and forth of which one to pick between San Diego State and Auburn. I am going with the Aztecs. Seems like the Mountain West has a really good crop of programs come out this year, and they had a lot in there. I think it was, when I was watching Get Up one of these mornings, one of the guys were a little upset that Mountain West got so many over the Big East. I mean, if they can prove it. Let them do it. Let them cook and see what happens. But I have a few Big East teams making some deep runs, and Mountain West not so much. But anyways, then I got the Illini battling the Cougars of BYU with the Illinois winning. Then Iowa State taking on Drake with Iowa State winning. So here for the Sweet 16 between UConn, San Diego State, I got UConn winning. And between Illinois and Iowa State, I have Illinois, which leaves number 1 UConn taking on number 3 Illinois in the Elite 8. I have UConn taking this one. Down south, I got Houston knocking off Longwood. A&M getting past Nebraska. James Madison upsetting Wisconsin. Duke over Vermont. I got Texas Tech over NC State. Kentucky over Oakland. Florida winning their matchup against number 10, and Marquette over Western Kentucky. So not only, I think maybe one stretch with that James Madison. We'll see how that plays out. Around 32, I got Houston slipping past A&M. I can see A&M knocking off Houston this go around. I got James Madison knocking off Duke. Texas Tech over Kentucky, and then Marquette over Florida. So there's a few more upsets around 32 in the South. Sweet 16, Houston ends James Madison's another run, and Marquette gets past Texas Tech, which gives you number 1 versus number 2, with Marquette edging out Houston. Out west, with North Carolina, will be facing Wagner. I got them winning that no matter what. Michigan State getting past Mississippi State. Got St. Mary's over Grand Canyon. Bama over Charleston. New Mexico edging Clemson. Baylor over Colgate. Nevada knocking off Dayton. And Arizona getting past Long Beach State. I almost went Long Beach State because Arizona always tends to have trouble against West Coast and Big West teams in the tournament in their history. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Long Beach State got past the Wildcats in this one. In round 32, I got Tar Heels past the Spartans. Got St. Mary's getting past Alabama. New Mexico upsetting Baylor. And Arizona getting past Nevada. The Sweet 16 has St. Mary's knocking off North Carolina. I found some good stuff in this region to make my picks. Maybe I was a little drunk. I don't know. And also have New Mexico over Arizona. So both number 1 and number 2 get knocked off. Here's my Elite 8 will have a number 5 St. Mary's taking on number 11 New Mexico. I think never has this really happened in the tournament time frame. And they got St. Mary's heading to the Final Four for the West Coast Conference. I don't know. I went with a St. Mary's not really I would consider a Cinderella going in there because they are a 5th seed. Maybe a little unprecedented that they make it to the Elite 8, but we'll see what happens there. And out there in the Midwest region, I got Purdue winning their game against the 16th ranked squad. Utah State get past TCU. Gonzaga over McNeese State. And Kansas get past Sanford. Now, Kansas has some issues with one of their star players, the bone bruise, out for the tournament. So we'll kind of see how that affects their play. Then I got South Carolina getting past Oregon. Creighton over Akron. Texas getting past their number 10 seed, which is going to be Colorado State as they blew out Virginia. And Tennessee stopping St. Peter's, so they won't have another magical run there. Round 32, I got Purdue over the Aggies of Utah State. Gonzaga will get past Kansas. I got Creighton past South Carolina, and Tennessee over Texas. Sweet 16, I have Gonzaga knocking off Purdue, ending their number 1. I don't think Purdue will make it this far. I don't think Purdue will be in the Final Four anyhow. It seems how the Big Ten kind of plays sometimes. And then I got Tennessee knocking off Creighton. There we have number 5 Gonzaga taking on number 2 Tennessee. And here I got Tennessee escaping the Midwest. So your final 4 matchups, I have number 1 UConn taking on number 5 St. Mary's. And the other side, number 2 Marquette taking on number 2 Tennessee. It's only one number 1 seed makes it to the men's Final Four. UConn get past St. Mary's. Tennessee past Marquette to prevent a Big East final. So once again, you look at this, you have 2 Big East teams in the Final Four. And here I got UConn beating Marquette, 132 combined points. And those are my selections. South Carolina and UConn winning the women's and men's college tournaments, respectively. For now, once again, my knowledge of college hoops is nowhere near the level to really make an accurate prediction. There's just a casual fan making these type of things. Whenever I do men's tournaments, I have one region that I do extremely well. I mean, almost a 90% accuracy is like my best I've done. I'll have two other regions where it's the complete opposite. A 10% accuracy, and one's like 50-50. And I've only picked one national championship champion correctly, and that's when Virginia took it all. So my track record is not the best, and we'll just kind of see how things kind of play out in the dance. This should be fun, entertaining, especially if you love college basketball. This is a perfect time of year, and just trying to figure out who's going to be that next Cinderella, who's going to be able to cut down the nets, who's going to be the ultimate champion. And if you noticed, I had both UConn men's and women's teams in the Final Four, which I think only happened one, maybe two other times. UConn is a blue blood in basketball. I think that's quite evident in that aspect. So, will I be successful in this endeavor? Time will tell. It's a unique. So some of these are definitely going to be some bold predictions in terms of deep runs, especially in the women's. And when I have a number 10, a 10 seed heading to the Elite Eight. For the men's, I have an 11 seed making the Elite Eight. So I do have some Cinderellas, probably the wrong ones, but we'll see what happens. New Mexico had a nice run in the tournament, and I think they have a path. They could do it. They get past Baylor and or Arizona. But let me know how crazy I am. I know I'm crazy, so you don't have to worry about that. Let me know who your picks are for this tournament. Do you think the number one teams in the country right now are probably the two endeavored to win it? Or is there someone else out there? Let's mix it up in the comments below. It really helps promote this video out, get it out to the masses. All YouTube channels rely on the algorithm to grow their base and grow the videos and get everyone to look at it. It only helps with how long you look, how long you watch, and if we interact. If you like what I'm doing, hit that thumbs up. I really appreciate it. You also subscribe. Not many of you do. Doesn't cost you anything. Only thing you have to do is hit that subscribe button, click the bell icon, turn on notifications. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.